So the Bears have the number 1 overall pick. They don't need a quarterback. For the second conversation, let's just entertain it. There have been rumors floating about on the Twitter machine, which is, always the truth if you see it on Twitter. Is there any way, shape, or form that the Bears should think about a quarterback, drafting a quarterback, moving on from Justin Fields, trading him, or if you're the Bears, tell me what you're doing as their general manager?
Yeah, I absolutely cannot envision that moving on from Justin Fields. He's still young. He's still in a developmental stage. The only reason why it may have come up is because there's a new head coach that was put in place last year, a new general manager that was put in place last year, a new offensive coordinator that was put in place last year. And I think as they evolved during the season, they figured out how to utilize Justin Fields' skill set. Not only can he throw the ball, and he's improving as a passer, but he's not a guy that you just set up in a pocket and let him wing the ball all over the yard. He is a guy that you have to utilize his athletic skill set. You have to utilize his legs, and thus that's what you saw most of the season with Justin Fields. They have so many needs across their roster, offensively, defensively, that if you have a quarterback in place and now you have the number 1 overall pick, the first thing I'm doing as a general manager, and we talked about, right, is I'm trying to bail out that first pick overall as quickly as I can and accumulate as many draft picks to help start rebuilding this roster. The other thing is that hurt them, even though they got the first overall pick, they would have had the first overall pick at the top of the second round. And traded that away to the Pittsburgh Steelers that are going to help the Steelers for Chase Claypool. So as a general manager, when you're going through this draft Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the most important picks, especially on Friday and Saturday, is that first pick in the second round and that first pick in the fourth round, because everybody just got done the Thursday night draft, got through the first round, but you get the best of the rest when you're in those 2 spots. And I think those spots become even more valuable because teams may be like, okay, we only need 2 more players that are going to help turn our franchise around. So let's do what we have to do, go up and get that top spot and get our guy that we covet. So that's what's fun about the draft, and the fun what I learned through the years, and even learned working with you last year and Pete, although I don't like to give Pete any credit at all, but I did learn something for Pete, is that pick to get that player first day off that board is just, I can't put enough emphasis on how important that pick is.
Okay, let me ask you this. So let's say you're sitting where the Bears are currently sitting. You have that first overall pick. What are the actual mechanics if you're the general manager? Are you picking up the phone today? Are you going down to the Senior Bowl chit-chatting and the Combine chit-chatting? How are you getting a feel for what other teams want to do?
Yeah, no, it's way too early in the process right now. I mean, teams are still in the playoffs. You don't know what's going to happen. Most of these chats may start down at the Senior Bowl. For sure, they pick up some steam at the Combine. But most of the teams there are trying to get the work done for the draft with all the Combine participants. But a lot of that is what's happening at the Combine. It's I compare it to the winter meetings in Major League Baseball, is where you have all the 32 decision makers there. You have all the agents in town. You're not allowed to technically talk to people, but you can start laying a foundation on some draft picks. And that you're willing to move off of that first pick. So that'll start kind of the conversations, but every draft deal that I've done, and I've done a lot through my career, usually happen on draft day. And 90% of them, for the most time, happened when we were on a clock or we were just getting ready to get on the clock.
That makes sense. And you sort of hinted at it last week when we talked about the Rick's Pick segment of Harrison Smith. You're not out there trying to broadcast what you want to do, especially later in the draft. Clearly, at the top of the draft, it becomes clear as we get closer to the actual draft that if a team likes a quarterback, there's some indications that certainly may happen. But let's say the Bears either trade down or draft someone that's not a quarterback, which seems reasonable at number 1. If you're the Texans, how concerned are you? Let's say the Texans love Bryce Young, and we don't know whether C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young will love for someone else. Let's say they love Bryce Young for the purposes of the conversation here. if you're the Texans GM, how concerned are you that the Bears may allow some other team to get your quarterback? And let's say you like CJ Stroud or whoever your number 2 quarterback is, you don't love him quite as much as you think Bryce Young is your guy.
Yeah, I think that'll be all those discussions that a lot of teams are having now. A lot of teams will have before they go down to the combine. And it'll be how all these quarterbacks perform through this pre-draft process. I mean, you're going to get your psychological testing. You're going to get your medical scores. You're going to get your intelligence scores. They're going to be through hundreds and hundreds of interviews. You're going to get to know them and their ability on how they're going to prepare to be an NFL quarterback. I mean, you hear the rumors out there, and I can't verify them or not, but Kyler Murray, you know, they put in that contract addendum when they extended him about you have to put in X amount of hours in film in order to get this to achieve this. But those are the answers that you are trying to get before you get to game day on the NFL draft. So there'll be a lot of discussion going on. But personally, if I have both of them equal, I'd be happy with either one than just sit there because you know you're going to get one of the two. If I have one significantly above the other, I may even look at potentially trading with Chicago just to flop to make sure I secure my franchise quarterback or the guy I believe is going to lead our franchise for years to come.
Would you give up, if you're the Texans, say a second-round pick to move up that one spot, or is that too rich?
Well, you're talking about a quarterback and you're talking about a franchise quarterback. So I would ask you this. If Trevor Lawrence and
yes.
Houston Texans, what would you give up to move up to make sure you secure Trevor Lawrence? So it depends on how strongly you feel about these guys. And if you feel strongly about one, then do what it's going to take to go get them.
So things get interesting because, and you mentioned this, we just did HQ and talking about the draft order. And unlike last year, where only Kenny Pickett went in the first round at number 20, there's going to be a run on quarterbacks, it feels like, in the first 10 picks. So